The story begins with Bradley Thomas, a former professional heavyweight boxer who now works in an auto repair shop. The boss calls Bradley into his office, but Bradley refuses to go in and tells him to deliver the bad news here. The boss fires him. He drives home in a depressed mood. He sits in the car too distressed to get out and eventually notices his wife sitting in her car. She is having an emotional conversation with someone on call and suspecting something is wrong. Bradley hurries towards her car and opens the door. His wife, Lauren, is shaken as she didn't expect him to come home so early, and he quickly notices a love bite on her neck. He asks for her phone, and when she refuses to give it to him, Bradley snatches her bag and empties it, so she finally tells him that she has been seeing someone behind his back. He angrily throws away her phone and tells her to get in the house before taking out his anger on the car. He tears it apart and breaks the entire car with his bare hands. After finishing the car, he goes inside the house and calls Lauren for a serious talk. And it is revealed that the couple had a miscarriage a few years ago and has been distant from each other since then. Bradley suggests that they should start again and try to have a baby, but Lauren reminds him that she has a low-paying job while he just got fired. So, he tells her that he will deliver drugs to a friend named Gil. She tells him he promised he wouldn't work for Gil, and the idea of it makes her weep. He promises that he will leave that job once they have enough savings. A year and a half later, Bradley walks into a suspicious-looking apartment complex, and manages to finish a perfectly done deal. He walks to his house. The house is well furnished, which means things have been going great for Bradley. He goes inside the kitchen and finds a pregnant Lauren cooking and gets angry at her for exerting herself. Bradley seems to be overly caring for her and carries her to the bedroom, but they are interrupted by a call from Gil, who tells Bradley to urgently come to his place. When Bradley reaches the place, he is directed to the pool room, and Gil introduces Bradley to Eliezer, who has brought 2 thugs with him. He introduces one as Roman and the other as Pedro and tells Bradley that these 2 will be accompanying him for the delivery. Bradley, straight up refuses to go as he believes Roman is on drugs. Gil tries to convince Bradley to take them with him as the shipment is really big. Gil tells him he will give him 3 entire months off when his baby is born, and Bradley decides to take up the offer. That night, Bradley goes on a mission with the guys, and Bradley checks Roman, throws his gun in the water, and takes them to Gil's boat. They move into the sea, and once they reach the spot, Pedro dives in and brings out the cargo from the water. They take out the bags, dump the trunk, and start heading back to the port. Once they arrive at the port, the Mexicans again pick up their guns. Bradley senses something suspicious and quickly tells them to drop the bags in water. However, the Mexicans put a gun to Bradley's head and quickly get into the car, leaving Bradley behind. The police show up on the spot, and a shootout starts. Bradley tries to get away but is unable to and goes to help the police. Bradley shoots at Pedro and knocks Roman out. Bradley then surrenders to the police. During interrogation, the officer is shocked to see that Bradley is a patriot and tells Bradley that he has a moral compass as he saved the lives of police officers. He encourages Bradley to tell him the names of his associates as that will reduce his prison sentence, but Bradley refuses to be a snitch. Lauren comes to visit him before his trial, and Bradley tells her that he doesn't want her to come to the trial because he won't be contending the charges and will be given a sentence to serve at least 5 years in prison. Lauren begins to weep and promises to come visit as often as she is allowed and is about to say she will bring the baby with her, but Bradley refuses, saying he doesn't want her to see him in prison. He tells her that he will tell her the full truth when she is old enough to understand their circumstances. She promises to wait for him no matter how long the sentence is, and they say goodbye to each other. The next day, Bradley is sentenced to 7 years in a medium-security prison, and Bradley is shocked by the injustice as he even helped the police. He is transferred to Franklin James Prison, which is locally known as the Fridge. Upon reaching, he is ordered to follow a red line and give his name to an officer who uncuffs him and takes him inside the prison. Bradley joins a long line of prisoners at the registration window, and upon his turn, submits his belongings to the guard. The guard asks him to remove his wedding ring, and Bradley reluctantly removes his ring. He goes to another room where he is told to take off his clothes and is checked thoroughly. After that, he meets with a prisoner named Lefty who is in charge of helping Bradley. Lefty tells him the basic rules about the jobs at the prison and how everyone gets a solo cell. Lefty tells Bradley that he has been serving for 28 years now. Bradley tells him that he was selling drugs, and Lefty explains that he eliminated 2 men. On the way to his cell, Bradley comes across a guard. He tells them that he is the coach of the boxing club in the prison and offers Bradley to join the club, but Bradley refuses, saying he would rather crochet than hit people for no reason.
I'd rather knit baby booties with pink yarn than hit people for no reason.
Lefty intervenes and tells the guard to let Bradley go to his room. Lefty tells him to come for dinner, and Bradley expresses anger at getting a longer than expected sentence when he is alone in his room. Bradley goes to sleep and is woken up by commotion outside. He realizes he is late for roll call. When he steps out, the guard again harasses him by putting a light in his face and tells him not to delay attendance next time.
You hear that buzzer? You come out and get counted. No delay. Ding ding.
But Bradley doesn't take him seriously. That same night, someone breaks into Bradley's house, and Lauren wakes up because of the commotion. She quickly locks her bedroom door and takes out a gun from the drawer. She holds the gun up and shoots at the window when someone breaks it, but the thugs manage to knock her out with a tranquilizer. The next morning, after Bradley wakes up, he is taken to a woman named Denise who will assign him work and find the department he is suitable for. However, Denise tells him that she received a call from Dr. Pellman, who is his wife's obstetrician, saying that there are a few complications with Lauren's pregnancy and that he will be coming to tell the details to Bradley. She sends Bradley back to his cell where he nervously waits for the call. A guard comes to escort him and again urges Bradley to join the boxing club, but Bradley pays no mind to him. Once Bradley reaches the visiting area, he notices that Dr. Pellman is not at the window but some other man. The man tells Bradley to remain calm because if he makes any noise, Bradley will regret it his whole life. He shows him a picture of tied-up Lauren and explains that Bradley's betrayal cost Eliezer $3.2 million, and to settle for it, they have an abortionist who can clip the limbs of an unborn child and still leave it in a condition that it will be born. The only way Bradley can prevent this is by eliminating a prisoner serving his sentence in the Red Leaf Detention Center, where the worst criminals are kept. Bradley replies that he can't get into maximum security prison, but the man tells him to show the guards that he needs higher security than this, and he will be transferred. The man explains that if he doesn't kill Christopher Bridge, the prisoner in cell block 99, his wife and child will be harmed. Bradley is again escorted back by the same guard, who apologizes for pressuring Bradley into joining the boxing club, but Bradley decides to act instantly and attacks the guard. An impressive boxing fight starts, but the guard proves to be no match for him as he easily defeats him using his years of experience, breaking his arm, but the backup soon arrives, and Bradley surrenders. However, he realizes that for this attack, he will only be transferred to the lower floor which has tighter security. To further his sentence, he attacks the convoy despite being cuffed and manages to shove 2 of the guards down before he is hit with a stun gun and is told that he will be transferred to Red Leaf. Upon arrival at the new prison, he is welcomed by armed guards who are led by the warden. The warden asks the guard about how many people Bradley injured in the fridge.
2 are in the hospital, and the 3rd sustained minor injuries.
The warden explains to Bradley that the worse his behavior gets, the smaller his freedom will become. He tells the officer to dump Bradley's belongings, including his wedding ring, and clearly states that the men in Red Leaf aren't weak enough for Bradley to put up a fight. He then orders Bradley to change into his neons outside as the examination room is under renovation, and Bradley is given a deep search outside. The warden orders to put him in a dilapidated cell where the toilet doesn't work, but prisoners have still used it as they have no other option. Once inside the cell, Bradley almost vomits because of the smell. Unable to manage the smell, Bradley uses his t-shirt as a mask and eventually goes to sleep. After a while, a guard comes in and takes Bradley out for a walk and tells him that he has 60 minutes for a workout, but if he doesn't behave, he will be locked in his cell 24/7. There Bradley meets an inmate called Derek. He asks if anyone here is from cell 99, and Derek tells him that prisoners from block 99 are kept isolated from the rest of the prisoners as it holds the most outrageous psychopaths. Bradley decides to get into action and tells Derek that he is psychotic before going to the dumbbells, where he gets into a fight with 2 Mexican prisoners. Bradley easily trashes both of them, and the rest of their friends step in with 2 barbells. Bradley manages to knock out one of them as well. Suddenly, the fight is interrupted by a guard and orders them to hold their hands behind their heads and face the wall. Bradley does as asked, but one of the prisoners still attacks Bradley, so he doesn't hesitate before beating him up. The guards enter the yard with their guns aimed at Bradley and ask him to put his hands in the air or they will shoot, but when they come to cuff him, he manages to beat one guard and break the arm of another. The warden comes in and puts a rifle on Bradley's head. They cover Bradley's head, and finally, he is taken to cell block number 99, which is hidden behind the bookshelves. Bradley is thrown down the stairs to a basement already showing that prisoners from cell block 99 aren't treated like humans. Taking off his mask, he finds himself in a dark room, and the warden announces that he will be staying here for the next month. The guard puts a heavyweight belt on Bradley with a stun gun attached to it, and the warden explains that for every misconduct, Bradley will get 5 points, and he will be struck with the stun gun for every point he earns. Bradley is taken to his cell, which is littered with broken glass.
You want to be mindful of the broken glass.
And he immediately falls onto it because of another electric shock. On the other side, Lauren is tied up in a basement, and the abortionist comes for a preliminary examination, so Lauren begs them to not hurt her child, but the men don't care about her pleas.
This is baby girl we're talking about.
It is lamentable.
When Bradley wakes up from a short nap, he starts shouting out for Christopher Bridge in the small cell window. However, the next cell inmate replies that he has never heard of anyone with that name. The guard intervenes saying there is no guy with the name Christopher Bridge and never has been before, giving Bradley another electric shock, and Bradley learns that his assassination target does not exist. During the night, a red leaf guard brings Bradley out to the hall and then tortures him with the stun gun.
Do not blink until I give you permission to blink.
He then takes Bradley to a spacious cell with Eliezer and his gang including Roman, but tells them to not kill Bradley today. The guard hands the remote of the stun gun to Eliezer. He shows Bradley another picture of Lauren tied and blindfolded and tells him that if he retaliates and kills him or any of his men, his family will suffer. The gang starts to beat Bradley up, and they intend to torture him for their amusement throughout his time at Redleaf. Bradley is knocked out because of the torture, and 2 guards drag him back to his cell. When Bradley gains consciousness, it's meal time, and he is again given another electric shock before the meal. The inmate in the cell next to him wonders why the guards are so against him, and Bradley tells him that he broke the arms of a few of them. Bradley then takes off his shoes, rips the sole out, and puts it between the taser and his body. Later at night, the same guards come and escort him to Eliezer's gang, but once they get into the hall, Bradley snatches their gun and uses it to beat them. He tells one of them to give him the keys and kills one of the guards when he keeps trying to get in Bradley's path. He takes the keys and locks the other guard with the dead body in his cell. He then uncuffs himself before removing the lock of the tossing belt. On the other side, Eliezer gets bored of waiting for Bradley to show up and tells one of his men named Johnny to go look for the guards. However, Bradley shows up like a hero and gets into a serious fight, managing to knock Johnny out. To give a clear signal, he steps on Johnny's face and drags it on the ground. Eliezer tells his lackeys that he will double their pay if they manage to kill Bradley, and Roman along with another guy attacks Bradley at the same time. Once Bradley is done brutally finishing off the other guy, Eliezer calls his doctor and tells him to start the surgery if he doesn't call within 10 minutes, if he doesn't call in an hour, they should flush down the mother. Before Bradley can say anything, Roman attacks him, so Bradley takes out all his anger on Roman and smashes his skull open. Eleazar tells Bradley to obey him or say goodbye to his family, but Bradley grabs Eleazar by the neck and tells him to call off the operation. When Eleazar doesn't respond, Bradley breaks his legs, forcing him to tell the surgeon to stop the surgery. Despite being injured, Eleazar doesn't give in, so Bradley decides to drag him down to a cell of a pervert. This finally makes Eleazar scared, and he tells Bradley he will tell his men to release Lauren. Bradley tells him to ensure they hand her over to Gil, and Gil confirms that Lauren is safe, only then will he let Eleazar live. He puts Eleazar in his cell and cuffs guard Jeremy there as well. Once he steps out of the cell, the warden shows up with backup, but Bradley tells the warden that if he tries to open up the gate or use gas against him, he will murder both men in his cell.
Try and open that gate or gas me, I'll murder them both.
Bradley explains that he is waiting for a phone call, and after a spare minute that call is over.
I'm waiting for a phone call. 1 minute after I'm off, I will turn myself over to you.
The warden calls out to Jeremy, who confirms that he will get murdered if the warden doesn't listen to Bradley's demands, so the warden decides to wait for the phone call. On the other side, the thugs drive Lauren to Gil's house, and before they can leave, Gil uses a heavy gun to shoot them both. Lauren, wanting to participate, takes the gun and finishes them off. He then calls Bradley, and they talk. Lauren tells him she is fine and suggests he says a few words to their daughter. Bradley begins to weep on the phone, telling their daughter that he wishes he could be there for her and Lauren and wishes she will grow up healthy and smart. Lauren says that the baby moved in response to his words, and Bradley quietly weeps. The warden questions if he can come in now, but Bradley reminds him of the spare minute he wants to spend alone. He breaks the phone during that time and goes into his cell to execute Eleazar. The guards and warden barge in, and the warden executes Bradley right then and there.